Hey, yo, welcome into another pregame Saints live chat. My name is Jeff Nowak. I am NOLA.com's digital sports producer. If you have any issues hearing me in whether I'm having audio difficulties today, which I am having a little bit of, make sure to drop those in the comments and let me know because it's tough to know whether I'm coming through. I noticed that one of the videos, if you expect, was lagging and it looked like I was streaming through mud. So if any of that happens, let me know. Otherwise, let's dive right into the pregame chat for a game that I know I've been looking forward to for weeks. And I know Michael Thomas has been looking forward to for months. And it is Saints Bucs. It is part 2, and this time it will, it won't decide the division champion, but as far as the Saints are concerned, this is basically a game to really take control of the division race. If they win today, they will, they will leapfrog the Bucs, even though they played one fewer game, which then would mean the Bucs would have to win that game to even keep pace. But it would mean that the Saints had swept the season series, and that is a huge tiebreaker. You saw what happened last year in the NFC South in the NFC race with the Packers and the 49ers and the Saints all finishing 13-3. And that, that kind of weird tiebreaker scenario, the Seahawks too. Well, I think, the 49ers finished a game ahead. The Saints, Seahawks, and Packers all finished 13-3. And because of the weird three-way tiebreaker scenario, they missed out. They didn't get the bye, and they had to play in the first round. They lost. And this is a similar scenario where you have a chance to really put away that tiebreaker today. You will not have to worry about any confusing scenarios as far as the division is concerned. You don't have to worry about the NFC record, common opponents, anything like that. You put it away if you win that today. And that's what the Saints are really looking at doing, and they get Michael Thomas back in action to try to do that. And we'll see what happens. I'm gonna block someone from commenting because we're getting spammed by Mohammed Iksan Maulana. Let's see. Sorry. Just trying to, if I don't do this, I will not be able to see any of your comments because this commenter is just spamming the feed with a link to Ice Cube, whatever the heck that is. Let's see. Sorry. This is for the benefit of all of us. Okay. He is blocked. So, hey, I can see your comments now. And as I'm talking, as I'm kind of ranting away and rambling like I do, please put any comments, any questions in the feed, and I'll try to get them answered. And right now, while I'm thinking about it, hit me with your score predictions. I'm really interested to hear, whether there's some confidence, whether there's confusion, whether you don't know what to expect. You're getting Michael Thomas back for the first time since week 1. Oddly, it's the same team he played in week 1 where he comes back. I was thinking earlier today, you look at a team like the Bucs, they're on a short week. It's more difficult than it sounds for an NFL team to play on Monday and then come back and play Sunday because you lose that day of preparation. And it's an important day because you push everything back. You have a rest day after the game, which is then Tuesday. And then your first, kind of prep day is Wednesday, where most teams are kind of going over the tape from the previous week on Tuesday and then coming into Wednesday and kind of installing that week system. That's really not what you're able to do on a short week. Everything gets compressed, especially coming off kind of a weird game where they got pushed a lot harder than you would have expected against the Giants on national television. And, there's some things they need to address. They need to address the running game with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. It's been a really weird split where you have Leonard Fournette who's kind of turned into the third down back, which is really bizarre to see. And Ronald Jones has been the early down back, but it really should be flipped. But Ronald Jones is, notably a bad pass catcher. He's just not a good pass catcher. He had a fumble on a reception against the Giants. And, and that's kind of something that they're going to have to deal with. You're not going to see Leonard Fournette on a lot of early downs, at least I'm assuming based on what I've seen from the Bucs, until you get later in the game. And, and it's weird to see because that's just not how teams usually run that split. The Saints are similar, but that's because, Alvin Kamara is Alvin Kamara, and he's being used in ways that you wouldn't typically run a system, other than the Saints at least. And that's why that split doesn't make sense. That's not what's going on with the Bucs. Their split doesn't make sense because they have the inability to catch passes out of that top position. But so, like I said, throw your score predictions in the chat. I'm going to go through inactives really quick. Or the inactives just came out, and that's why we're bullish on Leonard Fournette, on Michael Thomas playing, because he's playing, he's active for the first time since week 1. And to put a bow on that point I was making, if any other NFL team, they played on Monday and they had to turn around and play the Saints on a short week, and all of a sudden Michael Thomas is playing for the first time in 8 weeks, that would actually add difficulty. The odd thing is the Bucs have already scouted the Saints with Michael Thomas. I think that Mike should be coming in better now. The Bucs have already scouted the Saints with Michael Thomas. And as fortunately for them, they don't have to worry about scouting an offense with any other top pass catcher than Michael Thomas. They've already done it once. They actually can fall back on that, because for the first time all season, the Saints are going to run the offense that the Bucs probably scouted for week 1. Every other team over the Saints' last 7 games has had to, or 6 games rather, has had to kind of figure out where they think the Saints are going to go. Was it going to be Emmanuel Sanders? Is it going to be Traquan Smith? Is it going to be Marquez Callaway? The Bucs don't have to do that. I mean, they have to scout and figure out what the Saints are going to do, with Thomas probably limited in some capacity. I doubt that he's going to play the snap share he normally would, but it simplifies the process for them. And I think they're actually, if any team had to face it, they're the ones that probably are going to be impacted the least. Still, you don't want to play a game without Michael Thomas ever. So I think the Saints are going to be very thrilled to get him back. Let's see. I have I'll make this a little bigger so y'all can read it. No, I got rid of it. Hold on. I clicked the wrong button. There it is. This is by our Saints reporter, Amy Just. The Saints only have 3 inactives on Sunday. You have Ken Crawley, who he was on the COVID list along with Emmanuel Sanders. You have Derek Kelly, who's he's been used pretty sparingly. They've been running James Hurst and Will Clapp in a lot of the jumbo sets the last few weeks, and so that's really not going to affect them in any tangible way. As long as Teron Armstead stays healthy, I'd expect to see James Hurst. It's kind of that jumbo lineman. The Saints run that lookout a lot, and he's going to be in it. If Armstead or, maybe Ranchep go down, you'll see Hurst kind of jump into that secondary role there. And Will Clapp will be the guy in the jumbo sets. But for now, that's really kind of irrelevant. Ty Montgomery actually came back off IR this week. He's inactive for today. And I think you're looking at, that's not an injury thing. That's more, you had to make space for Michael Thomas on the roster. And so you have to have somebody be inactive, and Ty got the short straw there. But it's good to have him back. It's good to have him in the room, in the running back room, and just allowing the Saints to kind of be fluid on what they want to do. And especially when you're talking about scout team, it's good to have a guy like that. Tampa Bay's inactive players. You got Ryan Griffin, Justin Watson, Keyshawn Vaughn. None of those guys are really big involved in the game plan, so it shouldn't be a big factor. Ali Marpet is a big piece for them. He's a Pro Bowl guard, and it'll be interesting to see if the Saints attack the interior of the offensive line, knowing that he's not there. And then Khalil Davis. But none of those guys are, other than Marpet, are the stars. You still got Shaq Barrett, you still got Ndamukong Suh, and they're gonna be a big factor. But okay, let's see if I can get any of your score predictions here. All right. I'll switch over to a different tab. Does that work? We're frozen. There we go. And we can just scroll through some of the pregame Twitter. You got Smiling Tom here. Isn't that nice? I'm going to beat that. Got sound here. All right. So, Darius Sampe, 37-28 Saints. Trey Lecomte, 41-38 Saints. Thinks it's going to be a high-scoring game. Richard Ware, 40-31. We got a lot of people expecting a high-scoring game today. I don't know about that. 31-21 Saints from James White. Let's see, any more in here? Those are the ones I've spotted. No, that's not a score prediction. Okay, I think that's all of them. Yeah, so a lot of you guys seem to think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think 31-21 is a better projection. Everyone thinks the Saints are going to win. I also think the Saints are going to win. I've been kind of bullish on this week. I've had a few people tell me they're not confident in the Saints coming out and doing this. I don't know. This to me, this feels like a game the Saints really assert themselves in. They always seem to. This seems to be that time of year, kind of the dog days you get from like week 8 to week 14, and the Saints just really kind of turn it on every year. It's without fail. At least recent history. Obviously, they had some lean seasons in the early part of the last decade, but that is not the case the last 3 years. It seems like every year they kind of struggle on defense. A slow start on defense kind of gets worked out, and I think that was exacerbated even more this year due to the lack of a preseason. So that kind of early season adjustment stretched out into like week 4, week 5, week 6, and I think you're now seeing that team. I think you saw a team play against the Bears that was really sound defensively. They had one breakdown deep. They had one deep breakdown in the middle of the field. Janoris Jenkins got beat. I want to say it was Mooney who got him. But otherwise, they shut the Bears down. They really played sound defense. They turned the ball over. Demario Davis got after it. Trey Hendrickson got after it. Cam Jordan got after it, who you see on the screen right there. And I think you're going to see more of that. I think that's what you're going to be looking for today is the Saints really getting after Tom Brady. I don't know what to expect from Antonio Brown. I really don't. But I also don't think that he's going to be a huge part of the game plan. I don't see how you can be a week in after missing the first 6-7 weeks of the season. There's just no way that you're going to be fully incorporated into the offense. Could he break a play? Could he have a few big moments? Yes, but he's not the guy that you're game planning for. You're looking at Mike Evans. You're looking at Marshawn Lattimore, played really well last week, and hopefully he kind of got tuned up. He had a rough start, but Mike Evans is always the guy that he loves to shut down. Mike Evans had, I want to say, 2 catches week 1, maybe 1. He had a touchdown, but it was a 1-yard touchdown. He had 2 yards total, I think. And I don't see Antonio Brown being a huge factor. I see Leonard Fournette being a huge factor. He was, he had just joined the Bucs before week 1, and you kind of move into that situation where he's just not the same way as Antonio Brown is just not going to be incorporated in the offense. Leonard Fournette wasn't incorporated into the offense at that point. And now, 8 weeks in, healthy, I think he's going to be a guy the Bucs lean on. They might run Ronald Jones out there on early downs, but I think when it comes down to it, when the metal meets the road, when the rubber meets the road, I don't know what I said before, when the rubber meets the road, it's going to be Leonard Fournette who they trust in those kind of high leverage situations. But still, I think the Saints kind of win this one going away. I don't think this is going to be a game that they get out slow in. I think this is going to be a game where you finally see the Saints run that offense that you expected, that had them as a Super Bowl favorite going into the season. It's like you saw a team that was basically running extended preseason reps for the last 5 weeks, trying to make do with Marquez Callaway, Saquon Smith, and Deontay Harris, guys that you really like, but not elite weapons. And you bring back Emmanuel Sanders, and everyone's going to talk about Michael Thomas. The Saints are getting Emmanuel Sanders back this week after he missed 2 weeks due to getting diagnosed or coming down with coronavirus, and he was symptomatic, so he had to be in quarantine for 10 days. You get him back too. And these guys are going to be fired up for this game. That is one thing that the Saints never do, is come out flat, with the exception of week 10 against the Falcons last year. I obviously remember that game, even though I've blocked big parts of it from my memory because it was so bizarre that it's not even worth talking about. But in games like this, in games where there is actual pressure, standings pressure, the Saints always come out hyped for these games. You have Michael Thomas raring to go. He's chomping at the bit. He literally punched a teammate. That's how frustrated he's been to be out. Obviously more going into that. And I think what happened with Javon Wims last week gives you an indication of just how in your head Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CD Deuce, can get. But that's a guy who's as competitive as there is in the NFL. And his energy is going to be energy for the rest of the team. I think you're going to see this team, especially early in the game, flying around the field, making tackles, making plays. And it's going to be tough, even at home. for the Bucs to match that energy. It really is. And again, coming off a short week, the offense has bogged down a little bit since they really put the screws to the Packers and the Raiders. And I think the Saints are going to win this game. I said double digits earlier. That's tough. I think it's going to be between a 7 and 9 point margin. I don't think this is going to be a field goal game. I think this Bucs, like they did in week 1, might trim the deficit late in the game. So I don't want to go out on a limb and say it's going to be a double digit deficit, or I'm sorry, a double digit win for the Saints. But I am confident in saying the Saints will lead by double digits in this game, and I think that the Saints will win this game pretty comfortably. It's just what they seem to do in these moments. The Titans game last year is a really good example of that. I'm trying to think of another one. The Cardinals game, it's tough because the Cardinals really were kind of finding their way, finding their identity with Kyler Murray at that point. But, they blew them out in that game. The Panthers game was weird. Any divisional game is going to be weird. But I really do think that the Saints are going to come out with energy today that they haven't shown yet. Okay, and let's go through a few comments here to see if there's any questions I can get to. I think there's one up at the top. I don't want to miss it. No, just some. Nikisha, she can hear me. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes these audio visual setups can be a bit tough to manage from my home office that is really my living room. So if you can hear me, that's all I care about. What I have to say, if you need to hear it, that's a different story. But I do my best to make sure y'all have a good experience that's in some capacity. With that in mind, before I get to any questions, you can see my Twitter handle at the bottom of the page. I tweet a lot of Saints stuff if you're into that sort of thing. So feel free to check me out. And obviously we have content. Let's see if I can remember the shortcut to get back to that. Oh, damn. Wrong one. Let's see. There it is. And obviously if you're looking for content, you can find us at NOLA.com. NOLA.com /sports/Saints, if I'm being specific. We have content galore. Check it out. If you're looking for any storylines, check it out. And I will continue to look at comments. I need to zoom in my screen because my eyes are going. Okay. Y'all are just talking to each other. Defense has to show up big tonight, Kendall. I think you're right. I think that's going to be a big part of this game. And the other thing that you're going to want to look at is ball control. Are the Saints extending possessions? Are they stacking first downs? That is one thing that I was most impressed by with how the Saints operated without Michael Thomas, because when you lose him, you lose that elite chain mover, that guy you trust implicitly on third and medium, third and short. You can throw the ball in and he's going to come down with it. He's strong and he is physical and he doesn't mind taking contact, and he's going to make those tough catches. He made a really tough catch for a first down against the Bucs in week 1. That was a big point in that game that helped the Saints kind of create that margin that the Bucs, they rallied a little bit, but they didn't really have a chance at the end of the game. And that's what they were missing. And the fact that they were able to sustain these 10, 12, 14 play drives and really just shorten the game has been pretty remarkable, because that is what Michael Thomas does best. And I think I want to say the Panthers game, they had 6 drives. The Saints had 6 drives total in that game. And then there was the drive that doesn't include the drive at the end where they ran out the clock. But, scoring drives, they had 6 of them. An entire football game. That's nuts. And that's how the Saints have won these games. And they're going and being able to do that without Michael Thomas really, really is confidence inspiring, assuming everyone's healthy and everyone's playing as well as they should. In terms of, the Bucs have a great defense, but if you keep the offense off the field, if you keep the Bucs offense off the field, the Saints defense is able to stay fresh and fly to the ball. And that's huge when you're talking about a team with this many weapons, because they're going to get you. They're going to get you at points. You just have to, limit those big plays and force them to beat you over and over and over again, because eventually it's not going to work. Let's see. ready for my Saints smackdown of the Bucs. Richard Ware. You know, I really do feel confident. I normally I go into these games with a healthy dose of, but today I don't know. It just feels like the game the Saints win. This is the game the Saints show up and really show off in. Let's see. Y'all are jabbering back and forth. McCoy should be their pass catching back. Yeah, Ronald Jones is fine, but I just don't see it. I don't see a guy that you need to have on the field. And it's tough for him because this is his season that he was really supposed to be the guy. And then Leonard Fournette became available and showed up and had nothing to do with Ronald Jones. You just lucked into an elite top line running back that fell into your lap to stand next to Tom Brady and be able to do everything. He's a 3-down back. You don't need a platoon when you have Leonard Fournette. You need a pass catcher. You need a LaShawn McCoy. But, you know, the Bruce Arians is committed to his team, to his players, to the guys who've been there, and he is committed to this Ronald Jones experience, and you're going to get it. I just think that, you know, the Saints and everyone else who has to play the Bucs is fortunate as long as they don't slam Leonard Fournette down your throat. Because, I mean, we're in Louisiana. We know who Leonard Fournette is. And he can catch the ball. He had, I want to say, 70 receptions, maybe 66 receptions last year. He can catch the ball. He is a 3-down back. And then you need a guy like Sean McCoy to come in on 3rd down and be that real kind of receiver back. But the Bucs are just doing this weird kind of split. And to be fair, Tom Brady has always been the type of guy who really likes to rotate backs in and out. You know, he had James White, Shane Vereen, Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead. You never knew who was going to be the guy that beat you. And I think part of it is Tom Brady. But I'll tell you what, when Ronald Jones fumbled against the Giants inside their own 20-yard line, which just set up the Giants for a quick score. I don't think it was Bruce Arians that benched Ronald Jones. I think it was Tom Brady that benched Ronald Jones for the remainder of that game. He came in for maybe 3 or 4 snaps the rest of the way. You don't fumble like that with Tom Brady throwing you passes and live to tell about it. He's lucky if they kept the bus and didn't drive off without him after the game. You do not want to piss off Tom Brady in that fashion. So, you know, maybe it's a 1-week thing. Maybe they'll get back and Ronald Jones will really show off. I don't know. I don't see it. I think he is a very capable running back, but he is probably the 3rd best running back on that team. We're going to shut down Antonio Brown. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how they use Antonio Brown. I'm curious to see how often he's on the field, you know, what his snap percentage is. Are they running him out there out of the slot? I think they should. I think he's going to be running most of his snaps out of the slot because it's just so difficult to account for a guy like him in those kind of short, tight windows that he can always kind of run, you know, 2-man concepts out of and break outside. The slot receiver in today's NFL is more of a, you know, he's an outside receiver. And it's, if he's going to take the role of a Scotty Miller, that's the interesting thing is Tom Brady seems to have found Scotty Miller as his favorite target in this offense. Are you going to take Scotty Miller's reps away and kind of run Antonio Brown in that role? I don't know. You kind of have to at some point. I don't know if that's this week though. Scotty Miller was the guy who was targeted on that Janoris Jenkins pick 6 in week 1, if you remember that. It'll be. I'm interested to see the Janoris Jenkins. You know, I talk about Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans. That's a battle. The Janoris Jenkins Tom Brady battle is also very interesting. Janoris Jenkins is one of the few cornerbacks in the NFL that has picked off Tom Brady twice in his career. He returned it for a touchdown in week 1. And I don't think he's going to run that quick out play coming out of the second half this time around like he did that time. Anthony Wilson, I expect Thomas Timlin limited, but if he has a chance to make a play, I'm sure he'll do it. Expect them to get after Tom Brady as well. If they succeed in that, that will be the difference for the Saints winning this game. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see Michael Thomas get, you know, his typical like 95% of the snaps or whatever he was getting. But he's gonna get snaps. They wouldn't have him active for this game if they weren't confident in him getting through it with, you know, probably 75% snap share. You do want to find ways to get Marquez Callaway on the field. he's a guy who you are now tremendously confident in, and you want to kind of build on that. I think Deontay Harris is the guy who's going to lose the most snaps. He's never been a guy who you really wanted to kind of throw a ton of snaps at, because you know how important he is in the return game and on special teams. And so I think he'll still get those kind of jet motion, those jet action, but you're not going to see him in those. They've run a lot of 3-man concepts, and he might still work into those, but you're not going to see him in those pass first 11 personnel concepts that you've been seeing a lot of the last few weeks, because you're still going to see a lot of Traquan Smith. You're still going to see a lot of Emmanuel Sanders. I don't think you're going to see as much power football. I don't think you're going to see as much Adam Troutman as you have been. I think you're going to see more Josh Hill, because he's very important in the running game. But I agree. I agree with a lot of this. Like I said before, Ali Marpet is inactive. I think the Saints are going to try to really hammer the interior line and see if they can collapse the pocket on Tom Brady, because he's not mobile. He's not moving. If you collapse the pocket from the inside, you end the play against Tom Brady. I've been waiting all season for the Saints to kind of pull out some what the Giants called it a NASCAR package back when they had Justin Tuck, Matthias Kiwanuka, I'm talking too fast, OC Umenyiora, and they would throw Justin Tuck and Kiwanuka inside, and you had 4 DNs just flying upfield. And that obviously works better on passing downs because they're not going to be able to hold up in the run game. But when you're looking at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, obvious passing downs or in a 2-minute situation, I think you throw Cam Jordan inside Trey Hendrickson, and you find someone else on the opposite edge. If Davenport's in there, and I love it. I think they should try to incorporate that more. You kind of turn David Onyemata into more of a nose tackle type, because he's picking up a double team, and you're really allowing that interior rush to fly upfield right into Tom Brady's chin. I don't know if they will. That's just me kind of banning about, but I agree. The interior pressure and getting after Tom Brady is really important. We have a few more, so we'll keep going. Our defense always shows up. They always shut down the running game. They do that. They got kind of gashed a little bit by David Montgomery in the first half last week. That was kind of similar to how Dalvin Cook really kind of hammered them in the first half of the playoff game. Carlos Hyde did the same thing last year in week 1, where he ran for a ton of yards in the first half, and then they really clamped down in the second half. I think that because of how the Saints play the running game, especially as the game progresses, you're going to see Leonard Fournette catch a good number of passes, and how the secondary, especially the strong safety or the nickel safety, because they run a lot of sub packages. That's usually going to be CJ Gardner-Johnson, CD Deuce, or PJ Williams. Those guys are going to have to tackle, because you're going to end up with Leonard Fournette in the flat, and you're going to have to come up and tackle him. It's going to have to be a safety. It's going to have to be a Malcolm Jenkins, a CD Deuce, PJ Williams, and that's going to be a big part of this game. I agree with you there. I disagree with this. I really do. I don't think Brown and Gronk are the guys. Cameron Brate is a very good tight end. They have weapons everywhere. And that's the difficulty. It's not about shutting down 1-2 players. It's about not losing one player, one Pro Bowl player on a play, and having that turn into an 80-yard touchdown, because it can happen that quickly. It's about being consistent. It's about staying true to your scheme. It's about hitting your marks, hitting your landmarks when you're dropping back into coverage, communicating. Malcolm Jenkins and CD Deuce need to communicate. Marcus Williams need to communicate. You saw what happens when you don't communicate against the Panthers with a 75-yard touchdown pass to DJ Moore. All that happened there was neither safety knew what the other safety was doing. Marcus Williams thought that Malcolm Jenkins was going to drop deep in cover 2, but he bit up on a dig route, and Malcolm Jenkins thought Marcus Williams was going to sink. He was going to sink in his zone, and he didn't. He crashed on the corner route. And what happened? You have DJ Moore running by himself down the middle of the field, and that's communication. That's one guy not understanding what another guy is doing, or not understanding what his own assignment is supposed to be. And that's what you've seen a lot of in the first 8 weeks, and you need to correct that. And a guy like Tom Brady is a master at taking advantage of a defense that isn't communicating as well as they have to. So I think that it's not about Gronk. It's not about Antonio Brown. Any of these guys can beat you at any given moment. So it's about the larger kind of scheme and making sure you understand what you're doing. This is going to be Troutman's game. One of my, I make a I call it a 6-pack of predictions before every game. One of mine for this one, I don't think Troutman's going to have a huge game. I think he scores a touchdown today. I think this is his first career touchdown. I think it's coming. That's my kind of off the wall pick. I had a few others. So obviously the score prediction is one of them. I think it's going to be, my guess is 35-25, but I'm going to swing that to 28. I will consider myself correct if the Saints get to 35 and the Bucs get anywhere between 25 and 28. I think it's going to be a 2-score game where 7 points might be the target. They might kick that field goal and give themselves a chance, or score a touchdown with seconds to go, and then it's going to be one of those games. But the Saints will be leading by 10 points at some point in this game, is a prediction of mine. I think Alvin Kamara runs for under 50 yards. I don't think he's gonna be able to assert himself in the running game. But I think Adam Troutman scores a touchdown. There was a few others. I think Leonard Fournette catches 8 passes and scores a touchdown in this game. 8 or more. Let's see. I had a couple others. Scotty Miller has more yards than Antonio Brown. There's another one. I think Marcus Davenport has 2 sacks. And I'll go with one more. Let's see. I think Sean Payton shakes Bill Belichick's hand after the game. I'll go with that. All right. Saints usually split with Tampa. Usually. They didn't last year. Usually it's so relative. They lost in week 1 3 years ago. Or was it 2 years ago that they opened in? I think it was 2 years ago. They lost in week 1 with Fitzmagic. But I don't know about usually. The Saints usually beat the Bucs. The Bucs have been bad for a long time. They haven't I want to say they haven't made the playoffs in a decade. They don't usually split. Let's keep going. Is he playing? I assume you're talking about Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is playing. Antonio Brown is also playing. Brady has never played in a good division. This is true. Well, he has played in a good division. It just has been bad for quite a long time. When he first started in the AFC East, it was good. It just hasn't been for quite a while. And that has been a factor. And I think that the ability for Tom Brady to kind of rest down the stretch of those seasons so often. When's the last time you saw him playing a meaningful game after week 15? I think last year he did, but that was a weird season. The Bills were good. And that's not something he's going to be able to lean on this year. So it'll be interesting to watch him down the stretch and see if he starts to wear down. Callaway is playing. Doesn't matter. I think you're talking to somebody else, but yeah, Callaway is back. And I'll leave it with Jalen Stone. He's a very big Saints fan. He hopes the Saints win. I cover the Saints, but I do enjoy when they win because it's more fun to cover a team that's winning. Because when they lose, it's like trying to talk people off a ledge constantly, and that's no fun for anybody. I think you're going to be impressed with what the Saints show today. That they've, more than any of you, they have been dying to get Michael Thomas back. Michael Thomas has been dying to get back. And it'll be interesting to see Drew Brees, wild card being, that shoulder's been bugging him. Hopefully that's just kind of minor soreness. It seemed to be bugging him last week based on the shoulder tape he was wearing. I imagine he'll be wearing that again. He had an injury designation this week, which he did not have the previous week, which to me indicates that it's either the same and they feel like they need to get him a little more rest, or, it's gotten a little worse and they just needed that little extra rest time. But he was active on Friday, so there was no risk of him missing the game. We still have some people spamming the feed. I'll block them afterward. But that's what I'll leave you with. Saints 35, Bucs 28. And hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. If you want me to look at any tape, I've been sick all week, so I wasn't able to do any film study this week, but I'll try to get back on that horse this week. I'll probably look at some Michael Thomas stuff because that's what everyone's going to be talking about. You can give me a follow. I got it here at Jeff Nowak. That's an underscore NOWAK. As always, thanks everyone for tuning in. I really enjoy doing these. And I appreciate everyone who dropped a comment, dropped a score prediction. And let's see what happens. And see y'all next week. Peace.